Yo, what is up? My name is DJ Arii Mas, and you're listening to Dark Tech Radio on KBVR Corvallis with my guest DJ Yalin, and we got a special guest for our special interview this week. We have Sky-Fi.
Yes, sir. What's going on, man?
Dude, we were just playing one of your songs. You want to talk about that track for a little bit?
Yeah. Man, I actually didn't want the song to stop. It sounded pretty good to me. So this song that was just playing on air, first time that we got a chance to ever take it to radio, song called Palm Trees. And could not have done it first and foremost without my production partner, a homie of mine, Ryan Devin, really helped me craft a sound, just this whole sonic experience with this project Evolve that I put out in October. And Palm Trees was one of the songs that wasn't even initially part of the project. This came from a studio session that we had lined up, ready to record something else for the project. And coming up the stairs, hearing this playing, still in its skeleton form, not really, no concept or anything. I was like, what is that? And what do I have to do to be a part of it? And I just got instant, I'm very visual with music. I've always just had visuals or colors that I'm able to, textures, all that I see with sounds. So with that particular song, instantly I just got palm trees on my mind. It just feels like a palm tree would sound for some reason in my mind.
Nice, okay.
So
it does feel very tropical when I listen to it. That's for sure.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. That's what we were going for. Whether consciously or not. And but we came up with a hook right then and there, and yeah, the rest is history. So that's Palm Trees.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, shout out to Celise too. She's featured on the second verse there. Super talented singer and vocalist and rapper as well.
So I want to go back to when you said you had a very visual experience. Do you mean like synesthesia?
So I think so, in the strangest way. I don't know if that's something I actually have. Mm-hmm. It might be. That's something that I never even heard the term until like 3 years ago, maybe. Yeah. And maybe so. What I remember from childhood is like around the holidays, Christmas time, the strobing Christmas lights that you could have attached to trees or around your windows, and they would like phase from one color to the next. We always had music playing in the house from every era when I was a kid. And I don't know, I would just sit a lot of the times as a kid, I would sit, listen to music, and watch the lights strobe from color to color. Yeah. So I don't know if that's where it came from, but I definitely recall that seeming to be the first experience where I would associate color and sound and movement. And yeah, so I don't know, maybe you got palm trees years later somehow from pine trees, but yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea for the listeners that are tuning into our show right now. Synesthesia is basically like when you have when you can see like vibrations through like color representations, and you can like make really strong associations with like visuals and audio. Mm-hmm. And I really like the live experience, like when you go to concerts and stuff, because it's like when the visuals and the lighting during during like live concerts, it's really like a unique experience that you can't get just from like listening to music at home. Totally.
I would totally agree with that. Yeah, I like the word itself. I've tried to separate, track by track. Whenever I've put out a project, I always hear like, oh, this either feels like a track one, or if even more so, it feels like, oh, this is really green with some hints of orange in it. It's hard to describe, but I think when you meet somebody that either knows what synesthesia is, or I guess is just an avid music, I don't know. To me, this is the only way I've ever listened to music. Yeah. And so it's weird to me when I meet somebody that doesn't associate it with a color, maybe. When putting together, we kind of touched on this in the elevator on the way up here, but the idea of the theme of Evolve as it was being put together, the entire project happened to be written to blacklight. Mm-hmm. So there was this, I think something came out of that in the sound. At least to me, it acts as the perfect soundtrack to playing video games with a blacklight on. Yeah, is the way I describe it. And I even tested it out. I revisited the album for the first time since putting it out in October, and put on the old NES, put on, Super Mario Brothers 1 and 2, despite what people think of that one. I actually have grown to appreciate too a lot. But, and it still, to me, it effectively works. So trying to listen to it, you finish a body of work, and after some time spending, day in and day out with the music, eventually you go, well, it's done. Like it's finished. It's out there. I'm not sure what I think of it anymore. It's time for people to hear it. And it's up to, at that point, the painting's finished, get it in front of people and get a response from it. And so I definitely kept purple in mind. Purple, obviously my hair, this is not a visual experience, but in dyeing the hair purple, in the purple that came with the Sky Pilots hoodie, it was all tied together with this kind of a theme of at least a visual with the black light.
Yeah.
And beyond that, it's crazy. That is the first time I've put out a body of work that I felt the risk in putting it out. Like, this is different, but it's me, and like there's no loss in that. But it was instantly received. It seemed like people that were tuning into what I was doing or what I'm doing now instantly received it as, this is dope. And I was like, it's this crazy kind of reaffirmation of you doing something that is on the right track.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad people are receiving it well.
Other than visual influences like colors and stuff for your album Evolve, what like musical influences do you have? Like, what rappers have you man, I guess looked up to when you've had like writer's block during your experiences with Evolve?
Yeah. Oh man. With Evolve, with everything that I've ever done, like I grew up in a musical household. There was definitely not rap music was not playing in my house, unless it was in my room, and, but just about everything except for hip hop and country. To this day, I can't do the country music. I can find, just like any genre, good and bad when you're digging for it. Mm-hmm. But it just never really resonated with me.
Why is that?
It's a good question. It just, some stuff you connect to at a young age, some stuff you don't. Like, I remember my dad actually buying, and I remember the name of it just based on what he'd constantly bring home from the CD store at the time. And it was the Clint Black album. And I can only remember that because I remember the cover, what it looked like. And it was a song, I think, The Thunder Rolls. And the way that the cover art was put together, the coloration of the cover art, I understood it at a young age. It's like, oh, this is, I get it. But I never gravitated to the genre as a whole. And I don't know why that is, right? Like, who knows why you're drawn to what you're drawn to? My dad and I were just having a conversation the other night, about what he was listening to at 15, 16 years old. Bear in mind, I'm 15, 16 years old when I start rapping. And his influence, he was listening to a lot of like Ozzy Osbourne, or at the time was becoming more aggressive rock. And, I definitely had my phase even before as becoming a songwriter where I was listening to a lot of the aggressive rock. But at 15, 16, the next generation of my dad, me, I'm listening to things like The Game, who at the time, 2006, was like at the height of his powers. Probably I would have said at the time was my favorite rapper. And it was very aggressive, but it was West Coast hip hop, but it was that same feeling regardless of genre. If I was ever drawn to anything with country, it would have been the storytelling aspect of it. Because even in hip hop, like, you can have bars all day, and everybody's a rapper now, which makes it a lot more
like competitive.
I mean, yeah, but like realizing the greatest competition you have is yourself.
Yeah.
And when you can somehow make that shift, like that's I think what I was kind of alluding to earlier with never having a true loss in that. If you're doing something that is like, this is undeniably, this is me. I don't know what this is musically, but I always tried to make music that I wasn't necessarily hearing and there was a lane open for, but ultimately music that I wasn't finding anywhere else. Like what I want to listen to, bringing it back to belonging to something, like belonging to something that you feel an instant attachment to, that you're almost part of the club. Like Marvel Comics, when you're a kid, there was, the Mighty Marvel fan club, so I'm thinking of this way to incorporate sci-fi, right? Like, how do I incorporate this into what I'm doing? And I threw it out there as a hashtag, Sky Pilots, one time. And not long after that, bringing you up to speed a little bit, this kid dealing with a difficult time says, so much says, I'm going through this time right now and your music's getting me through. Ends it with, and this is a private message to me, ends it with hashtag Sky Pilots. And I was like, oh, okay. People are listening. People are paying attention to this. From there, it turned into the occasional song being dropped on one platform, and then a couple minutes later on Snapchat or the other platform, someone hits you up with somebody hit me up at 1.3 minutes after the new song dropped. Right, like enough time to just listen to it. I've been almost like waiting by the computer. You would think, to be like, when's it coming out?
Yeah, and like they actually like listen to it too, because it's like it's the length of the song. Like,
right, in theory, right? You would think,
in theory at least.
I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's listening to it and hopefully loving it. Right, like he hit me up and the response, or he just so much, and ends the message with Sky Pilots. And like fire, whatever. And it became this answer, I guess. Like, this is what I was always looking for. How do I kind of capture it? And it kind of created itself. More so, the fans seemed to create it for me. And so really this year has been all about, okay, how can I put out something that is connectable instantly? And the people that are going to be interested in it are going to find it automatically. That was Evolve. Luckily, it worked out in a way where people seemed to respond to it positively, and it gave me a little bit of direction. So this year, we're going to be putting out all content just for the Sky Pilots and the whole community that I've built online. I'm calling it Sky Pilot Sundays. This is something I've had in mind for a long time now. And so it feels cool to see something that's only been on paper for so long start to come to fruition. So special announcement, really, that was a long explanation, but just to give you some context, the 7th of April 7th, Sunday, the first ever edition of Sky Pilot Sundays. Every Sunday for the entire year, I'm going to be putting out new content that could come in multiple forms. You might get a visual, you might get, of course, new music, a podcast, and a few other things that are up my sleeve that I still can't even get to. But if you're interested in kind of following the movement and everything and seeing what I'm putting out, you can follow me at The Real Skyfi on Instagram. That's where I'm going to be loading up everything mainly. And I am skyfi.com. And Spotify, yeah, right on. You
official,
yeah. It's official, like a ref with a whistle.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So thank you for having me up here.
Yeah, man, of course.
It's that kamikaze, I'm about to level up. Tamagotchi, baby, this that Tamagotchi. White on white smile, icy like a lot of hockey.